Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome into another winning episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you as always by our sponsor, Royal Links Golf Tours. It might be freezing cold out right now, but it's never too early to plan your next great getaway, and Royal Links Golf Tours can help you do that. Royal Links Golf Tours is a golf tour specialist offering unforgettable golf experiences to Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales. Their custom itineraries are more than golf trips. They are immersive cultural and country experiences that will surprise and delight you, both on and off the course. Royal Links Golf Tours is owned by former Bearcat quarterback Hayden Moore and his partner, UC alum Jeff Bartholomew. So if you've ever wanted to play St. Andrews or have that perfect pint of Guinness in Ireland, visit their website at royallinksgolftours.com or call them directly at 770 331 1525. And with that, we are back with my co-host Jeff Howe to discuss another Bearcats win, the final win in Philadelphia for the football team, 23-3 in a game that just kind of did its thing. And on a day where there were some upsets, on a day where there were some very, very close calls by highly ranked teams, on a day in November that puts you in position to, play for another conference championship, I'm going to take it and move on to Tulane. And Jeff, thanks again, as always, for joining me. And as we do every week, we'll kick it to you first. What was your big impression from the Bearcats? I don't want to say easy, comfortable win.
I mean, the defense looked really good. The offense did what was necessary to win. I think at this point, we touched on it quite a bit last week. Like, we're not looking for full-on wholesale changes in the way that this team operates or wins football games. It doesn't have to be. I said it yesterday. Like, it doesn't have to be pretty. I just get the win, put it on the left side of the column, and let's move on.
Yes, and good morning, Chris, Alex, Adam, Deanna. Thank you all, as always, for joining live. It's November. It's win time. We haven't won pretty all season, and they're 9-2. They weren't all of a sudden going to start winning pretty yesterday just because maybe the opponent is not as good. But, look around the country. I don't care. Get the W, especially if you're on the road. Get home and start game planning and getting ready for a good Tulane team coming to Nippert and win that game, and you're in the conference championship for 3 years in a row. We will get into the intricacies of this game, but the old saying around UC, just get the dub. It's hard to care exactly how it happens when the result, it puts you in a position to do exactly what we all wanted to do when the season started.
I mean, I think if you told people at the beginning of the year, after everybody that graduated and got drafted, whatever, everybody that's gone now, if you told everybody at the end of the year, you're going to be looking at a game that if you win, not only will you be in the conference championship game, but it very likely will be at Nippert. I think everybody's going to say, sure, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But if you look around Twitter, you would think that this team has only won 2 games this year and is playing the most miserable brand of football that anyone's ever seen.
Yeah,
and I know Twitter's not exactly the place to go to for sane reactions, but
it's not.
It's a place to go when you want to see kind of the landscape a little bit of what people, and it's crazy.
It is. But I mean, that's right. You said it perfectly. If we were doing our preview show, Chad and I break down the schedule, give our predictions, and if I just said just give me a chance, last game of the year, home against Tulane, if we win that, we go to the conference championship, don't care where, I'd have been yeah, I'll take it, absolutely, because we know that's what the goal is. So the goal is well within reach and very possible to achieve. So that's all I really look at from a big picture standpoint. But this game in particular, like this was vintage Black Cats.
Oh,
Like they took a team that had started to find itself a little bit offensively, granted against two defenses that are not anywhere near, and that's what I think this whole season has shown is that for all the consternation, for all the discussion, hemming and hawing, complaining, whatever you want to say, like this defense is still damn good and still gives them a chance in every game. 202 total yards allowed, 3.7 yards per play. Temple gained 35% of their available yards, which is a staggeringly low number. They had forced four turnovers, 1 for 11 on third down, 4 3-and-outs. Temple only had the ball for just over 23 minutes. They only ran 55 plays. Like, you forced 8 of their drives, 4 turnovers and 4 3-and-outs. Like, that's so good. And it was just a very Bearcat-like defensive performance in a game that you just needed to snuff them out from the get-go. And they did. Gave great field position to the offense, especially in the first half, which they capitalized on a couple drives. But Jacob Dingle, huge, awesome diving interception.
oh yeah.
Shepard with a great pass breakup that Threats was able to grab in the end zone and then keep himself in the end zone and not start a drive at the 1 yard line.
That was one of the, like people applaud like running backs or receivers or who like offensive players when they go down without scoring a touchdown and like laying in the middle of the field, whatever, keep the clock running. For him to have like the awareness of, okay, if I take this out, it's going to be like 2 or 3 yards because there's like 3 guys standing there. Or if I like do this little ballerina hop toe tap in the end zone and dive out without hitting the pylon, like we're going to be in better field position, was in the moment a fantastic play.
Oh yeah, and the Godfather with another huge play, stripping their running back and us jumping on it, and that happened twice where they ruled them down, but because of our awareness and just jumping on the ball, you can have the fumble, but you also have to have the clear immediate recovery for you to keep the ball, and they were able to do that. So that was huge on both plays. One by, forget who recovered.
It was
the fumble that
Noah Potter recovered.
I know he had the one that Van Fosten forced late in the game. I don't remember who recovered the one that
Corleone stripped and recovered.
Oh, he recovered himself. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good good awareness, good understanding of what you need to do. Okay, so sorry, I just got a text that I need to take care of something real quick. But yeah, it was the defense that we have always looked at and been able to count on, and they came through in flying colors. I'll answer this real quick. I didn't even realize this until after the game. Leonard Taylor was injured to some extent. I guess went through some pregame warm-ups and just didn't feel didn't feel like he was in a place to go. So we'll see what that means for next week. But yeah, he did not play.
I was gonna say that was kind of a late announcement that I had seen on Twitter that he wasn't going to be available. And I know somebody was asking if Mateer was back, but I don't think that he is back from his injury from earlier this year. So I don't think he was.
No, he played. He played a little bit last week, and then he was out there today. They ran a lot of, and we'll get into it when we talk about
totally
offense.
Missed that,
but they ran a lot of 12 personnel. There was a lot of stuff with Josh and Peyton Singletary,
yeah,
on as kind of like wing backs, kind of like behind the tackles. There was even with Shimon in there too. There was some 13 stuff too. But defensively, like Luke mentioned, that they worked some stuff to get as with Deshaun is kind of almost like a box third safety, just in an effort to make sure that him and Ty were on the field at the same time. Not a lot of one sack, and that might have even been credited on the bad snap. So not really a true sack in the sense of a sack. 5 tackles for loss. They did a lot of quick stuff, and it's been getting, and their offensive line is good. Like we talked about that on Wednesday night or Thursday night, whenever that was. Like EJ Warner is threw the ball coming into this game 38 plus times in 5 straight games and had only been sacked 5 times.
Yeah.
So he's real good at getting rid of the ball. As a freshman, he's good at kind of extending plays a little bit just to get him a little bit more time. He's not going to run, but I didn't think this wasn't going to be a big set game. This was a big stop the run when they did it, and they did. I mean, they did a great job stopping the run. Don't give them any unnecessary yards when they do try to run it, and just keep them in long down and distances where you just basically let them do their underneath stuff. And that happened a lot of times. Like they had several 3rd and longs where it was just like
the only thing available was
underneath and rally to the ball, make the tackle, get off the field. So kudos to the defense.
I just wanted to point out with the defense, like I know that you've kind of touched on it a little bit here, but the last 2 games that they played, Temple had 621 yards of offense against South Florida and 533 yards of offense against Houston. They had 202 yards yesterday.
Yeah.
So kudos to the defense.
And I would say the defense has started. I mean, it's a 2-game sample size, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
They've started to play much better on 3rd down. 5 of 17 last week, 1 of 11 this week. So 6 of 28 the last 2 weeks. It's not that terrible if the vaunted Holton Ahlers could only score 3 points on a mercy field goal when they were down 28-3. If my coach did that and then came to the press conference after and said I just wanted to get points on the board, I would be losing my mind. But anyway,
there's another one of those situations that I'll talk about later.
But yeah, I mean you've given up some. They were 2 for 2 on 4th down yesterday. I think ECU was 2 for 2 on 4th down. But I mean the main goal is 3rd down. I mean that's when you get off the field. You're only going for it on 4th down. Typically, if you're in plus territory or you're trying to extend a game. So like giving up some 2 for 2 on 4th downs yesterday is not something that I'm too concerned about when you're up 20 and they're going for it on with 5 minutes to go in the game.
Because it's not a Navy team that's going to go for it on 4th down all the time.
Right. So I mean you're 6 for 28 3rd down last 2 weeks. And that's huge when because that had been an issue earlier in the season. It had been an issue getting off the field, stopping drives. Just so if that can continue against Tulane, that would be outstanding.
Were you as surprised as I was looking at the games on paper and seeing that it was literally all purple everywhere?
All purple? Yeah, let's see if we can. Aaron asked us to. I don't think I have that up anymore. Can you have it up? You share your screen?
Yes, I can.
Present, I think, is what you do.
Yep. Yes.
But yeah, it was.
Then I think Aaron's gonna have to.
Well, here I can add it to the stream. There we go.
There you go.
So the people can see what we kind of look at typically from an analytical view. But yeah, it's a lot of. It's just the first game that there has been literally no green.
Like anywhere.
There's some white, some light purple, and a lot of dark purple on Temple's side.
Yeah.
But no green, which is not incredibly surprising.
I just really thought like the way that their defense played, like somewhere in here we would get.
Well, we didn't have not a lot of havoc plays. It was just a lot of like 2-3 yard gain, like 6-7 yard passes.
Plays.
Yeah. They didn't, they didn't run the ball a ton, so I don't know how much stuff rate you're going to get running the ball. And there weren't the plays
Yeah.
behind the line of scrimmage in this game. But yeah, so you can dive in, and it's a good thing if you like. It's a good website if you like to see kind of some more analytical, data driven views of the game. But even like this is like some of this is different. They have just different amount of plays than like the official NCAA stat report that we look, that the school puts out. So there's always going to be a little tiny variations of things. But did anything on there jump out to you, good, bad, indifferent, or are you just more surprised that like it's literally just all pretty much average to bad?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess like if you think about like the fact that those are kind of light, very light purple in the average zone, I just thought the defense played a lot better. I know there's not like a ton of defensive metrics going on there, but the offense, like I said at the beginning, at the outset, they just kind of did what they needed to do, and we can get into the elephant in the room a little bit whenever.
I think the defense was great. I don't think we need to hit too much more on that. They did everything that you would ask them to do in this type of a game where you just want to literally just get the win. Like,
just get in there and to play in such a ruckus atmosphere.
They overcame such a hostile environment.
God,
were there 5,000 people in that building? Like, people, just bodies.
I guess if you, I don't know, maybe. But everything that I saw was like tons of empty seats and then like one fan sitting there. And then like I saw the clip that the Bearcats put out, I guess, of like the rally cats that went up.
Yeah.
And so but that looked like the largest like single group of people in the place. It wasn't as bad as like Texas A&M, but
I'm looking up something real quick. I want to see what in their box.
How many
school,
fans?
Like what they actually say was there. Because I'm very curious about this. Let's see here.
I mean, it looked like a closed scrimmage.
Oh, it was way less than
I mean,
this number is amazing. Take a guess what they're putting down as attendance.
Like 35,000.
No, that's ridiculous. That's even more ridiculous.
Well, Texas A&M put out 90,000.
They said 14,600 something.
No way. No shot.
I'm serious. I don't think there were 5,000 people there.
I didn't you couldn't even. I mean, they should have. ESPNU should have just pumped in crowd noise so that it sounded like it was like it was like a quiet game.
Lambig asks if he's allowed to complain that we have 0 punts blocked. Lambig,
we lost the punt block whisperer.
This is a free society. You can literally complain about whatever you want.
We've lost
because
the punt block
clearly
whisperer.
People do that. Yeah. Did Notre Dame block another punt yesterday? I don't know.
I know that they won like 44-0.
Yeah, Boston College is awful. But yeah, so offensively, obviously, Ben Bryant getting injured, huge storyline. We don't share injury reporting. We don't really know much of anything. He was on crutches with a boot on his foot after the game.
Which could lead to any number of things.
Yeah, it could be a high ankle sprain that they just want him to be off. I mean, putting a boot on your foot is used to be kind of looked at as like, oh, that is a horrible injury. Now it's like you do anything, it's get the boot on, get the pressure off of the foot, get it, That said, on a short turnaround, playing in a game for a conference championship, it's hard for me to envision him playing Friday because you don't if he's not like close to 100%, you can't waste first team reps in practice on a short week when you're not certain if he can play or not. Like,
Yeah.
You need to give Evan as many reps as possible,
And
and
this
not
is
and not run the risk of like, okay, we get Ben tried to go and we get to game day, or he play and he can't go, or he plays a little bit and he re-aggravates it, and now we
yeah.
haven't given Evan like basic, he's gotten more reps because Ben's been injured, and we have to like I think you just move forward unless he's fine, which
Yeah.
I have no idea. Unless he's fine, I think you move forward with Evan for this game.
Yeah. And this is now what, the second game in the season that uh he's gone out. Bryant has gone out injured.
Yeah.
And Evans come in and just kind of like steadied the course, like held the course of where they were at. Didn't do anything crazy
I've seen
special.
some
Didn't do
like
anything.
wild,
Oh,
wild over like I'm not gonna call the person out, but like shined. Like he was fine.
he came in cold. He came in cold and
Yes.
steadied the ship
He
to
was
keep it moving forward. Like I said, like he didn't do anything special. He
no,
didn't. He
he
also
didn't
didn't do anything horrendously bad.
right.
He
Like
he did enough.
it's a tough situation, one, because it's a tough situation for multiple reasons. But first, he got no reps during the week. I mean, we're in week whatever this is. He got very few reps because you're game planning to beat Temple. Like
Yeah.
this isn't fall camp. This isn't bye week. This is game planning to beat Temple. So Ben takes the vast majority of the reps. Then he comes in halfway through the game. So he's cold. Your preparation is supposed to be the same, but like your preparation is different when you're starting versus, oh shit, the quarterback just got hurt. Now I've got to go in.
Yeah.
The playbook, I don't care what they say, it shrinks. There's no way that you're going to call the exact same things that you would call for a fifth-year senior who's been your starter all year and has been a starter for almost two full seasons. Then you're going to call for a player, that has never started a game, that has only come in I want to say a couple games in mop-up duty, or one game in mop-up duty probably, and then one game when the starter was hurt. So there's several contributing factors as to things that he's up against. But like you said, he did some good things. He didn't do anything that cost them the game, which that's frankly all I cared about at that point.
Exactly.
But there are still some things that, like, I go, here's my biggest takeaway, and people, you can say I'm totally wrong. People can say I'm totally wrong. Like, if you've been calling for him to start, then your expectation of what he did needs to be way higher than what he did. Because nothing that he did said to me, like, absolutely, Luke is wrong. He should have been starting.
I mean, look, he's probably going to. I mean, he's a different type of quarterback, right?
Absolutely.
And so when he comes in, and you've got your offensive coordinator is where he's at, calling the kinds of plays that he's calling. That's going to change a little bit. I think the first couple drives, like the first couple possessions he was in there, obviously there at the end of the half, like you're really in like kind of a survival, protect where we're at kind of mode. Let's get to the half and see what if Ben's going to be able to come back out in the second half. It becomes apparent to them, obviously, that he wasn't going to be able to come out and play the second half. So now it's Evan. So you got to change some things up. Look at the way that you're approaching the offense a little bit differently. And you bring up a good point that I don't think a lot of people think about, that during the week, he's not taking the reps and getting prepared in that manner as much as he is getting prepared as a backup, which is a lot different. And so they kind of on the fly just, I don't know, moved him out of the pocket a little bit. He made some things happen. Obviously, the Ryan Montgomery play that got called for illegal touching, which I think was actually like his second best play that he made under pressure. The other one being when he was getting sacked and it was an incomplete pass actually,
Yeah,
but
threw it out to
he
the side to Montgomery. Yeah, no,
threw it out to the
I mean
side over there.
he did some good stuff. He used his athletic, especially on the play to Montgomery in the end zone that did not count. He did some really good stuff. I think what has crystallized and what is evident is that this offensive line is struggling big time.
Yes.
Like, regardless of who the quarterback was. I mean, 4 sacks, offensive line did not pass protect great. The running backs did not pass protect great. And it just, when you cannot run the ball, and they ran it, I mean, I guess okay. I mean, Montgomery and Kiner had 22 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. It's not awful, but we talked about it Thursday night. This is a run defense that has been absolutely destroyed 4 weeks in a row. And at the beginning of the game, like, we could not move them. Could not move them. And so when you can't do that, I don't care who you have at quarterback. The defense does not have to respect your run, does not have to play your run. They can put 4 guys at the line. They can put, in this 3 or 4 guys at the line, depending on the defense, 2 or 3 linebackers, and they can just say, throw it. We're going to play shell coverage. We think our 4 up front can handle the run game enough that we don't need to commit any extra people. And we're just going to sit back here and make you throw underneath because we know you have the big playability. And they even with that in their face, they hit the one to Trey Tucker. Yeah. But like, it makes throwing the ball so much more difficult when you just can't move people and you can't run the ball with any semblance of success. I mean, you get down there on the goal line twice and you can't get it in the end zone. It's not acceptable. You can't say you're an offensive and defensive line driven program and not be able to move people. If you're not going to run zones and counters and pull offensive linemen, and you're just going to be a man-on-man offensive line scheme, you have to win those matchups, and they just don't win those matchups. And especially when Evan was in, I think that hurts because just like with Ben, I think a couple of his sacks were an awareness issue, and I give him a little bit of leeway there because his internal clock is not
calibrated yet
where it needs to be because he hasn't taken the reps. But like, you still have to and that goes back to my point of, if you think he should be the starter, well, a starter can't do that.
Yeah.
If you think he should be if you think he's the better quarterback, then the better quarterback doesn't have those issues. That's my whole thing. Like, if he was just a backup, there was no competition in the spring, there was no competition in the fall. It was clear cut. Ben Bryant's our quarterback, and Evan Prater's our backup, and we like Evan Prater a lot, but he's just not ready to compete. He's just not ready to play. And then the starter gets hurt, and he comes in, and that's what you get. Then you're like, that's fine. He's not ready. Like, we know that he's not ready. And he did enough. He made some good plays. He didn't make any horrible plays, and we won. But if your opinion is that he should be the starter, you cannot look at that and go, yep, that's right.
So I think though, obviously, like we've said it before, let's put a little bit of faith and trust in this coaching staff in making the decisions on who should be the starter. And when you listen to them talk, that's the way they look at it, right? They look at it as a guy that they don't believe was ready to go as the starter. And Bryant was. He gets hurt. Evan comes in, does what he does, and they're happy with how he performed when he went in because that's a backup going in, keeping the ship moving forward and not blowing the game by throwing like 5 picks and fumbling the ball or making stupid decisions out on the field. Like,
how many quarterbacks have we seen? Veteran quarterbacks that they're about to get sacked. I mean, I can think of Davis Brin at Tulsa, like about to get sacked and just heaves the
He
like,
won.
he didn't do any of that stuff. When it was time to get sacked or whatever, he took it, move on. We know we got a good defense. We know we got a good special teams. They needed to help him out a lot more, whether it was with the running game, whether it was with the play calling. I still don't understand what the hell we're doing when we get into the tight goal line situations. They kick three more field goals. That play, I mean, the defensive guy made a hell of a play.
Oh, he did. But
my biggest question is, like, we can't move people in the run game. So why are we condensing the field when it's second and goal from the one, third and goal from the one? Like, spread them out.
I will say on that play, it like when they went back and showed it from directly behind UC, like into the goal. When you bring Wiley in as a fullback, just follow him.
I mean, I think he might have probably been a better serve.
He punched a hole. There was a hole.
Dive in there versus going up top. But like, if you're not moving people,
it shouldn't come down to that. It shouldn't come down to that.
If you're not moving people, split out Josh Wiley, throw it up to him. Put in
Nick Martiner, throw it up in the air. He's 8 feet tall.
Go jumbo. And they tried to do it on second down, but like at that point, I'm just like, just pounded it. Like, I don't get it. We don't utilize the tight end anymore down there. We have trouble in these condensed spaces, but we're hell bent on just running it right up the middle between the tackle over the guard, like with extra bodies. Like, that's not working. Like,
I'm not
saying you're on third and 1 from the 1 yard line, you're in shotgun with 4 wide receivers.
Right.
Especially with Evan. Like, that's a quick recognition space. That's a fast processing space. He has not been in that situation. Like, I'm not saying like you standing back there and let him pick, find who's open, but like, the stuff they're doing ain't working, and it hasn't been working all year, but we seem to be doing the same things. This is kind of 2 questions in one here. Bearcat 12 asked, do you expect the staff to go after a few O-line transfers? And Tony asked, from a position group standpoint, is offensive line play the biggest area of concern going into next year in the transition to the Big 12? I would say yes to both questions. Now, obviously, good offensive linemen in the transfer portal, you don't think 100 teams are trying to get those guys, so that's a lot easier said than done. They've had success at the smaller school level. I mean, Dino Boyd from Rhode Island was the successful offensive lineman. James Tunstall, who started at UConn and then transferred to Stony Brook before coming to UC, has been a successful offensive lineman. So I wouldn't be as concerned about like where the guy is from, but yeah, you can't look at what they've done this year, whether it's in pass protection or the run game, and say that they should not be looking for options in the portal. And you certainly cannot look at that group as it is constituted right now and think that's good enough to play in the Big 12.
Big 12. Mm-hmm. And it's also, it's kind of hard to bank on even like getting, O-line guys out of the portal necessarily. Like, there's just got to be some guys that are really going to need to, like, I don't know, take a step forward, a step up, whatever you want to call it.
And you're not going to solve it.
Improvement there.
You're not going to solve it in the portal.
No.
You might get 1 or 2 nice pieces that help you, but like, if the offensive line is going to take a step, it's going to come from the development of the guys that are on the roster.
Yeah.
And I think they mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that Gavin Gerhardt almost didn't play. I don't really think they said why.
Yeah.
But
it did make it seem like it was like a game time.
Something, who knows, maybe illness, something, I don't know. But so, he was, something was compromised to some level for him yesterday. But it's got to get better. If Evan's going to be the starter against Tulane, I think they still try to do too many of the long developing pass plays with him. Like, you need to get him. Now, they did more of the stuff to Josh, and it was nice to see Josh with 11 targets, 7 catches, 70 yards.
He looked good. He looked good, like, kind of. And I don't know if this is just because he came in without much, prep on the first team guys. Would like he seemed a little quicker to check it down, which I know is like that's a kind of a let me bail out. I'm just gonna throw it over here real quick and let these guys do what they do. Um, so I did like that, and I obviously enjoy seeing Josh Wiley utilized more because we've been kind of clamoring for more tight end usage. But to your other point, once they get down to the goal line, it's like they must forget that their tight ends can catch the ball, and then they want to just bring them into this the fullback role.
Yeah, I mean it's he's Evans 12 for 17 for 127. So I mean he threw the ball. He threw the ball fine. He had a couple nice throws. One to Trey Tucker.
that was like right on point.
Yeah.
There was one to Tyler Scott on a third down where I think Tyler Scott might have heard some footsteps around him because I thought he could have caught that ball. It was a little high.
Yeah, over the middle. There were three guys around him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he threw the ball okay. To me, this is just much more of like, if you, especially with him, with the lack of experience, with you're going to have a short week of prep, like you have to be able to run the ball to help him out. You have to get him in, being 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2. Like,
yeah,
you could like the plays that Ben can make to bail you out on long down and distances. He's just not going to be able to do that consistently without the experience. Tulane has a very good defense. They're going to show him a lot of interesting looks, a lot of things that he hasn't seen before. If he plays in the game, and you cannot have him back there at 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8 type situations. Got to get him going with some quicker stuff. I felt when he came in, they're still running the plays and having him sit back there, and he had fairly good pocket presence, but there were a couple times where the awareness just wasn't there. And that part of that is experience and game reps and the internal clock and all that. But part of that needs to be like putting him in a situation to not have to really worry about that aspect as much.
So I think what we're saying here is obviously Ben Bryant was my first half offensive MVP. And I think he is an important cog in this machine, and hopefully whatever is going on with him was precautionary in the boot, like you said. I mean, nowadays it's like you stub your toe, they're like, put a boot on, and like if you can't go, we're gonna put a boot on for right now, and kind of evaluate this. So hopefully they've got a clearer picture of what's going on, and if it's gonna be Ben, then he can get out there and go 100% in practice and get his reps in, and we can be prepared for Friday. And if they decide that, like you said, like if there's any question, I think it would benefit them more to run Evan through all the first team stuff. Ben is, like to think, a guy that could, if he's kind of questionable even in his own head, that he can sit there and view practice and take it in a manner in which he would be prepared, just being that he's a veteran and been through so many game preps, that he could, if it's one of those things like, okay, he needs a few more days, whatever, he can watch as practice goes on and they can make a game time decision. But it would help them more, I think, in that situation to have Evan get the actual physical reps on the field during practice and be prepared that way, than to sit back with a clipboard and be like, okay, this is what Tulane does, as opposed to being able to see it on the scout team.
That is a good point. Like, I don't think Ben at this stage needs, every rep actually run in practice. I mean, you see that a lot, especially in the NFL. Will Levis at Kentucky is dealing with that this year. He's got a toe issue. He's got a left shoulder issue. So, I mean, he basically developed bad habits from practicing with these injuries that they finally just said, like, you don't need any more reps in practice. Like, just sit, be healthy, and try to play the game. So I definitely think that could be an option, because Evan just needs, if you have any concern, any question at all, he's got to get the reps in practice. So, I think. Oh, hello, sir. Are you wanting to co-host again? What are you getting? Some muffins? All right, well, hurry up. All right, bye, bud.
And then the question becomes, like, worst case scenario, if for whatever reason Ben is not available, you have Evan, and then who behind him in the event that something happens?
I would guess Brady Lichtenberg. I think so. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's obviously, like, other things that, they've got to look at.
That's the thing is, like,
and he's really never done anything.
He's got to get at least a few reps with the ones. He hasn't thrown the ball to those guys, probably run plays with those guys in practice since the season started.
Yeah.
Not a lot. You're not giving a lot of in-season third team quarterback reps with first team.
Yeah.
That's not. You're not given a lot of that as you game prep week to week. So like they'll dial in more on, and that's the thing is, when Evan comes in, you can't just call it anything. You have to call the things that he has worked on, that you've worked on with him.
Yeah.
And he might be probably working a lot of the same stuff that Ben is working, but just to a lesser volume. And so this week you've got to hone in on what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he's comfortable with, what he's not comfortable with, and that is going to be a more condensed playbook than what a fifth-year guy likes and is comfortable with. And that's just the nature of the sport and nature of starters and backups and what you do week to week, and how the focus is to win games, not necessarily like develop players in October and November. So this will be a big week for him studying, a big week for him, working with the ones, knowing how they like, and he's done plenty of that. He's not, unfamiliar with the players per se, but it's just everything just runs a little bit different when you have to have a backup quarterback come in as a starter. So it's a huge week, but we've said it. I've said it. Like, I have tons of confidence in this coaching staff. These guys are winners. Like, every week there's a result. And this week there was a result in our own league where you're just like, we don't do that. Like, I thought about this before we came on the pod, so I can't even, I didn't have a chance to look it up. Like, this year we've lost to Arkansas and UCF. Last year we lost to Alabama. The year before, they lost to Georgia. The year before that, they lost to Memphis twice and Ohio State. So, is it Luke's? Where are we the last time we lost? And I'm just rhetorically asked this because I'm sure you're not going to know off the top of your head. When's the last time we lost to a team that didn't have a winning record?
It might have been like did we lose to? Well, we lost to Temple a few years ago.
Well, it was Luke's first season.
Yeah.
So is that? I mean, is that the last time?
And I don't know what their record was at the time. I know we were a top 25 team when it happened, or because they were talking about. And that might have been the last time at Temple. That
2018, we lost at Temple, but I don't know if they finished with a winning record or not. I'm just saying, like, this team, this program gets it done when they need to get it done, and that cannot be taken for granted when you look around and you see my team, my other team, go into Columbia and just I have no idea what that was. Spencer Rattler has been terrible all season. South Carolina had scored 18 touchdowns in SEC play coming into the game, and they scored 9 yesterday. Like Spencer Rattler had more touchdowns than incompletions, or the same number of touchdowns as incompletions. So, like, just it's a testament to everybody, coaches, players, staff, everybody, that week in and week out, these guys can figure out ways to win. And I don't think going into this, like we talked about earlier, going into the season, I'm not sure you could ask, given everything that we knew would happen and that has happened, I don't think you can ask for more out of this group than to have a home game where if you win, you're hosting the conference championship for the third year in a row.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Like, and I tweeted out yesterday when the game was over, just 9-2, because there was, and I don't know if this is something that, like, I guess it like breeds itself when your team starts having like consistent success. It is like people who have these like expectations that every week is going to be like a double-digit win, a la Ohio State, whatever, or any of these other like big teams that are always playing in the college football playoff, and they've got these these big. But if you look around that, like that's like the exception and not the rule. I mean, Georgia won by 10 over, like 16-6 over Kentucky. Like, these teams aren't always pounding everyone into the ground. Like, it's college football. There are weeks where you look at the scoreboard throughout the day and you're like, I don't know what's going on with this. Like, you just have to win. That's all that matters. Like, you're not, if you don't start the season all the way like up at the top and you don't have the opportunities on your schedule to play ranked teams, which for some schools doesn't matter. They can just beat whoever's in front of them and they stay where they're at and move up. But for a team like UC, like, they really didn't start high enough in the rankings or anything, that like the New Year's Six Bowl has always been kind of the secondary target this year after winning a conference championship.
Right. And
they're in a position to do that.
You typically, with the way that the AAC has been, if you win the AAC, you're getting that New Year's Six bowl game. So, it's just, it's right there in front of him. And, Jeff wants to, he asked, said about the offensive line. I agree. Renfro will help stabilize the middle of the line for the Big 12, but we need a tackle. I think everybody needs to be like, if this is the style of their run game that they're going to use, like, you have to get way better in the middle too. There was a lot of shifting around yesterday in game. Cooper was in at left guard. At times, O'Quinn was in at guard. When Metz was in, O'Quinn played. Cooper played. Like, they're clearly trying to find combinations
that work. And who was that got hurt? Who got hurt?
Mal Glenn got hurt. He wears 87 when they on certain formations when he comes in as like an extra big body. I think it was on a field goal, or was it on? I
think it was on a goal line. One of those goal line
he
plays.
He got hurt on that. But they got to get better across the board. You got too many good backs to be getting contacted almost immediately. Like, it's one thing to not be able to, like, the holes are just not there. Like, there's not anywhere, like, the one run play that they busted, Montgomery's 14-yard touchdown, was a really, really nice blocked play. Like,
oh yeah,
they blocked it well. Metz got to the second level, shielded the linebacker. Montgomery cut off of that, made a nice move in the open field. But, like, they're not creating space for the running backs. It's like get what you can get 2-3 yards. And then if you get anything extra, it's because you broke a tackle. It's because someone missed a tackle. Like there aren't these like gaps where you're just running through 7 yards before you're contacted, 5 yards before you're contacted. The whole operation, whether it's the scheme, whether it's the players, it's probably both. But again, I'm not, I don't know if I'm like 5'7", on a good day. Like I don't know offensive line play. So it's it might be a question for spring practice when we get a little more relaxed atmosphere and we're around the coaches and we can just say like, hey, like, what are you trying to do scheme wise? Where are we failing? Where do you like, are you close? Like, because that's the thing is
like
Central Michigan had the nation's leading rusher last year. They had 2 guys drafted, I want to say in the first 4 rounds off their offensive line. We have their offensive line coach. So something is amiss, whether it's the talent, whether it's the scheme that is maybe he tried to bring the scheme from Central and these aren't the guys to run it. Maybe he
could just be the fact that it's the first year and trying to change things.
There's a lot of questions that we're not going to get answers to in like in the Tuesday press conference, but that I would like to ask them in not an accusatory fashion. I would ask them I want to better understand. Absolutely. Like, what are we trying to do? What are we not able to do? Just like be a smarter, more, more educated football fan, not take it to them as like, in a negative way. Just I want to know. I'm interested to know, like, why do you guys see the issues? Are you, or are they not issues to the extent that we think they are? Like, bunch of interesting stuff that could come from that.
I have there was something posed on the social medias yesterday.
I'm sure it was intelligent.
And so I want to throw it out because I know that we've got there's folks over here in the chat that might have opinion and more interested in your opinion here on. Would you like? Are you excited at the prospect of playing in a New Year's Six bowl potentially, and going up against somebody like say Alabama or LSU, whatever, another probably an SEC opponent of that caliber, maybe even Notre Dame. Heck, they might even play Notre Dame.
Any team that's been ranked in the top 10, 15, depending on how the last couple of weeks fall. Sure. Right. I get what you're saying. So would I be excited about it?
So here was the thing was this person said they were not, they knew they would get hate for this. It said, that they would rather not just go into a New Year's Six bowl against like somebody like Alabama and it be like really ugly.
So you'd rather go to like Birmingham on January 3rd and play a 6-6 crappy like Texas A&M?
I guess that's the
absolutely not. I want to play the best all the time, no matter what the possible outcome is. You don't learn anything about yourself, about your program, going to Birmingham or the Gasparilla Bowl or some shit like that, playing some team that either sucked all year and went 6-6 and gets to go to a bowl game because they're in a big conference, or goes to a bowl game that they, we make fun of the whole like, well, they clearly didn't care. Believe me, there's plenty of bowl games where the team does not care. No, I don't. No, why would I want to do that? Like, go to the Cotton Bowl, play Oregon or USC or Alabama or Tennessee or whoever. I play them, try to win the game and see what you have versus what they have. Like, no chance in hell I would ever. I don't care if the score is 50-0.
My response to it was, I'm more in the camp of win as many games as possible and let the chips fall where they may. If you're gonna go out there, I mean, look, we're going into the Big 12 next year. Like, we're gonna be playing these types of teams throughout the year. on a regular basis where we're not going in and playing in an empty, NFL stadium or an empty stadium on campus because the people don't get like it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Why not just keep that up? Uh, I like to get Dave riled up.
Natalie said you got me all riled up. I just
well, like it was when I saw it and I have
that's
like
just that's just such an opposite way of thinking.
Well, I put it
to the way that I'm wired. Like,
oh, to me like and the guy that posted it, like I have like back and forths with him, not and usually like agree with quite a bit of the things that he says. So like to see him post it out there, like it was I was a little bit surprised, and it might be just like kind of I don't want to end the season on like a losing note, but like I also don't want to end the season like you said, like at the Gasparilla Bowl or at a bowl that nobody cares about watching, because the thing is even if you go into a New Year's Six bowl and you lose, like they're like recruits' eyes are on that, right? And they see like, oh, they made it there. This just wasn't, it didn't turn out well for them this time, but they made it there, and maybe that's something else that can. But I am of the same thought that play the best everywhere so that there's no question where you stand and maybe where what questions need to be answered. It was like what we said at the beginning of the year when they opened the season with Arkansas, who at the time we thought could possibly be a very good team, whatever. Like we answered a lot of questions in that first game than you would if you opened with an FCS opponent.
Yeah, I mean the thing too is the New Year's Six to us in the current situation being in the AAC is a big deal.
Yes.
Because the drop off from that to the next best bowl game is a Grand Canyon size gulf.
Yes.
After going to the playoff and the way that the playoff has sucked up all of the airspace when it comes to postseason play, nobody gives a shit about the New Year's Six games. I don't care about there's some games last year, matchups, like, they're not interesting to me. Like, I watch them, but like, no one is like, oh my God, I cannot wait to watch this non-playoff game between, these two teams that are only here because they're in like power conferences and they didn't even make their conference championship game. Like, it's a big deal to us because it's like New Year's Six or Birmingham.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a big deal next year when there's some other very, very good bowl games that you can go to playing competent like teams that had similar seasons to you. That's the other thing is like you go from potentially making the New Year's Six or even last year, like if they didn't make the playoff, they were obviously going to make the New Year's Six. So it's not the exact same, but like it's not even the bowl game sucks. It's like you go from you're 10-2, 11-1, 12, whatever it is, and you don't make and then you go from not making the New Year's Six to still having that record, still having a really good year, and you're playing some team that's 6-6, 7-5 that finished 8th in their conference. Like nobody wants that. Like I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in playing on the highest stage possible, playing the best teams possible, and seeing how we stack up. And this year we might not stack up very well. I don't care. It's a players, coaches, families type of thing. Like bowl results to me mean literally nothing.
But here's my other like thought on that, and this is only a thought that came to fruition yesterday. So in the event that let's say Ben can't go whatever this week, or maybe he starts, I don't know, you get to the bowl game, if you get to the New Year's Six, like that would be fantastic. That would require another couple wins here to stack your next quarterback up against even better competition. It's all about answering questions at that point. I think about like you said, the measuring stick to see where you're at. Like, do you want to measure yourself against the lowest common denominator, or do you want to measure yourself against the best that you can go against in that situation?
I just don't look at what I want based on what the outcome might be.
Yes.
Like the outcome last year was pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
That
Oh
didn't
yeah.
that didn't keep me from wanting to make the damn playoff.
It was
like
the right, exactly. It was the
like
and
could you
it came
imagine being
down.
like, yeah, I don't really want to make the freaking college football playoff because we might get killed by Alabama.
And really, like, I wouldn't even say that, like, it wasn't necessarily killed. I
No,
mean,
they
really,
were a better team and they dominated. I mean, we struggled in every facet of the game. Didn't play a good game, but they were really good too.
really
Like,
good. Yeah.
but like, could you imagine being like, nope, I'm not interested in seeing how that goes. I'm not interested in 13-0 making the playoff because they might beat us bad.
And what did the nation get as far as like answers to like who UC was? It was that, like, those secondary guys were beyond elite, right? Like those
Mm-hmm.
guys, like, and some of those other guys can play at that level and do those things. We obviously were outmatched again on the line, and that was really what flipped the game. Is what it
Yeah.
is, but we don't need to like rehash that at all. But
No. Thunderbucks asked, is the 12 team playoff next year? No. The earliest it could possibly be is 2024. And the Rose Bowl, being the Rose Bowl, is basically the only hurdle left. I wish they would just tell them to kick rocks and, well, this whole thing is way bigger than you in particular, but they are hell bent on saying that they need their 2 o'clock local time New Year's Day because of a parade and a sunset. So we'll see if these commissioners, presidents, can tell them to go to hell, or if they finally realize like we're being ridiculous, which I find that hard to believe. They've been ridiculous throughout this entire process, even when the that's why on some years, the playoff is on New Year's. New Year's is, I don't know. I don't want to get into it. I won't know what exactly I'm saying at this point, but let me see here. Your commentary is about the bowl system in general, outside of the playoff, rather than specific. Yes, yes, it is the bowl. The bowl system. Like, I'm anti-bowl system in general. Um, they need to just basically go away if it's not the playoff, especially when it expands. If bowls are a nice reward for teams that I think had like unexpected seasons. But like, if you're when the playoff expands and you barely miss out, like, do you really care about going to play in some bowl game?
in the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah, like, you're not going to care. Like, if you need to win your conference championship game to make the playoff and you don't, do you? I mean, how much are you really going to care about than going to play some exhibition game a month later, 3 weeks later?
Yeah, and that might be like, I mean, that's part of like the reason I think that, I don't know, those games are just kind of this, like, I don't know, like this a feather in your hat kind of thing. Like, yeah, we made it to this bowl, and the kids get some items here and there and some extra per diem or whatever.
Oh,
Like,
it's great for the players, and it's a well
it,
deserved.
yeah,
Most of the time, it's a well deserved trip to a warm place. That's the other terrible part about the AAC bowl games is like you
you get
get
like the Detroit.
Birmingham, which is not necessarily warm in January. You get Fenway Park, you get Annapolis, Maryland. It's like not a lot of California, Texas, and Florida in there. AAC.
No Hawaii Bowl.
That you lose money on that.
Well, yeah, but the kids like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't know. I don't know that there's really. I mean, there's no perfect answer. I think that the 12 team playoff may be a better answer because at least then you'll have 12 teams that'll have a meaningful something, and you're giving some teams another home game for
Yeah, I
their
mean,
fans depending on where they're at.
there's good. There's, I guess, I mean, I look at it as all good, um, as far as uh, the expansion of the playoff. I know some people say, well, now it means that like in Ohio State, they can lose to Michigan and still make the playoff, and they can maybe even lose twice. And I get that, and the trade off to that is more access, more teams having a shot later into the season, more teams where, yes, an Ohio State and Alabama, they maybe can lose twice, but then more teams don't feel like we have to go undefeated.
Right.
More teams, like you take UC for instance, in a 12-team playoff, they lose to Arkansas, or in a 12-team playoff, they lose to Arkansas the season, they can still make the playoff, even under this circumstance. Like if
I
they
mean,
had lost to Arkansas and were undefeated, they had beaten UCF, they're undefeated, they would be in position to make a 12-team playoff, winning the conference.
well, even right now, like probably when these rankings come out next week, like UC might jump up to. I mean, depending on like the chaos that happens, if you're in the top 25 with like they a game plus potentially a conference championship game left, depending on what chaos happens, who knows? You might be able to jump up. I mean, it's a very outside shot, but you still have a shot there.
Right.
Like you're
Yeah,
not going to
it's
go
not
from
like
20th to 4th, but you might go 20th to 12th.
yes, it's possible, and it'll be even more possible next year.
Right.
Because your resume is on the whole will be better. Like
A lot better. Yes.
so, um, yeah. So, I think it's great for the sport. There will be people that cover the SEC and the Big Ten, or that are homers for the big conference, that will say it devalues the regular season, and I just don't agree with that at all. Because if you're looking at it from the entire landscape for all 130 Division One teams, it does not devalue the regular season. It allows you to not have to be perfect
Right.
and still have but under the current situation, like you see even last year was like a goal line stand by Oklahoma or by Baylor
Yep.
away from going 13-0 and still maybe not making the playoff.
Exactly. Natalie brings up a question. Do you think we reached a point where teams basically locked on making the 12-team playoff rest starters at the end of the year? I I don't know, only because like if you do that and then you lose a game
Yeah,
and
I don't
like
think
some
so because
other
if it costs if it costs you seating, if it costs you from getting a bye
or a
to
home
having a home
field,
game, or if it costs you from having a home game to having to go on the road. Like if you're the fifth seed or the sixth seed and you're slated to get a home game and you're in your Alabama and you rest your starters and you lose, and now you're going to Michigan in January, or late December, whatever the schedule ends up being, and it's 12 degrees and snowing sideways, and you just cost yourself a home game and a possible like 40-degree, 50-degree difference in game temperature. Like, I don't think that's certainly not worth resting your starters for.
and I think the other thing is like I don't think they would rest their starters just because like at the end of the season the teams that would be locked into the 12-team playoff are going to be playing in conference championship games
Or
and,
big,
and
like you think Alabama's going to rest their starters against Auburn and take the chance that they lose to Auburn?
right. So I think in that situation, like I don't think you'll see teams being like, okay, like we'll go ahead and see if our backups can win this game just to rest our starters. Now, if you've got a guy that's banged up, maybe you run him out and play him the first half and see if you can jump out to a lead and then he
Well,
can
it's
rest
just
the second half. But
it's very different than like the NFL. When you see teams rest their starters, it's because the standings have locked them into a
Where they're going to
certain
be.
position. There's no standings in this. There's still gonna be a committee.
Yeah.
So like just because you're in this spot one week does not mean like you're gonna be in that spot the next week. You can't you can't count on that. So I don't see it happening.
Not to say somebody won't think it, won't do that and then try to like, go into the media room after the game and be like, well, we didn't play any of our starters today, and try to lobby the committee, because we all know the committee doesn't really care a whole lot about anybody else's thoughts, but the 12 or however many people are on that committee in that room on that particular day.
For sure. I mean, I want it to happen as soon as possible, but we'll see if all these guys and ladies can get on the same page. Yesterday, obviously, not a great day for my other team. We don't need to talk about that at all. What other game would you like to discuss?
Okay. Well, you like, like we talked. I mean, Georgia, their defense is what won them the game. Obviously, yesterday against Kentucky, Kentucky had scored 6 points in the fourth quarter to kind of make it look a little closer, but obviously Georgia's offense didn't fire on all cylinders there. I don't know, Will Levis, he was 20 for 31, 206 yards, so not an outrageously spectacular performance there either. Ohio State won 43-30, but their last like touchdown from looking at the highlights stuff, I guess, was just a kind of a tip pass that was like a forced tip pass and landed and ended up with a like a pick six kind of situation. So they struggled a little bit with Maryland. Michigan struggled with Illinois. The TCU Baylor game was nuts. Did you see the end of that?
Yeah, when they ran the kicker out and
The no timeouts. We got to do this. Literally, like put his foot on the ball with like 3 seconds to go.
yeah, I mean he didn't even do like he ran. I saw this on Twitter. I forget who tweeted it, but like you usually see him like walk their steps out, and he just ran to the spot, and they snapped it, and went with the kick, and it was a very quick.
I mean, that is as fire drill a field goal as you will ever see, and to hit it in that situation to keep TCU, because if they lose that game, there's no way they're in the playoff. No shot.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And to run on in that situation, find a way to win. Do you think TCU fans are like complaining about the fact that they only won by a point? No,
against the now 6-5 Baylor team on the road.
I guarantee you they're not. They are just excited that they won the game and it kept them undefeated and likely still keeping their playoff hopes alive. So, and then we can skip the 5th ranked team in the country. Yep. LSU thumped UAB. USC UCLA was a good game. There was a very strange, kind of a weird ruling that I had not ever heard or seen in that game. There was a field goal that was kicked. It was a 46-yard field goal for, I believe, UCLA. They kicked it. There was a flag thrown. Field goal was made. So the flag was thrown for too many men on the field for USC. The official came out, waved off the field goal, said that UCLA was late bringing in their 11th player, and he didn't leave the window open long enough for USC to make changes, which caused them to have 12 men on the field. And so there, therefore, is no play, no penalty, no play, and they had to re-kick the field goal.
See, that's total opposite of the TCU Baylor game, because there were questions of like, when you run the field goal unit on the field, do you then have to give time for the defense to run their field goal block on the field? And if they just lollygag off to the sideline, then time expires on TCU. And I have always been under the impression that situation does not exist for field goals. Like the changing of offense to special teams, the changing from offense to the field goal unit doesn't give the defense the chance. Like they don't get the chance to just take their time in subbing.
Yeah. I mean,
apparently the Pac-12 thinks that it does. I don't know, because if that's the case, then yeah, why wouldn't Baylor just, basically walk to the sideline? Because then they could say, well, they brought the field goal unit on, so we need time to bring our field goal block team on, and you have to hold the umpire has to hold the snapper until we get everybody on the field. Yeah. Which I don't think it should be that way. Like no. It's not an offensive play. You're not subbing out personnel. It's like so I would think that the Pac-12 call was wrong.
So, but that was what they did.
Which wouldn't be surprising because their refs are on the level of AAC refs.
Yeah. So that was just an interesting thing I picked up there. USC did end up pulling it out, winning 48-45.
I want to. Lambig does ask a good question because I've been a Sonny, not hater, but whatever. Is TCU good because of Sonny? I find it hard to believe they aren't frauds, but they keep winning, so I don't know. I kind of agree. Like, are they better? Are these Big 12 teams not as, I won't say the role, but like on the level of UC of like, the way that they play and what they have done to SMU, and especially when Sonny was there, are SMU players just soft and TCU players aren't? I don't know. Because yes, like they keep winning against good teams. Like everybody could people that want to criticize them, they have, and it's just one metric and it's ESPN, so take it for what it's worth, but like their strength of record is number 1 in the country. Like they've beaten 4 or 5 ranked teams. Now they've had a lot of quarterback luck with the other team having backup quarterbacks in, but like you can't control that. That's not your fault.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess if you go from Dallas to Fort Worth, you just get tougher dudes. I'm not sure. Just walk 20 miles north, and you got a whole different crop of player.
Thunderbucks goes back to the UC game, bringing up threats balancing himself in the end zone. We did touch on that, and we agreed. Very high IQ play in the moment to realize like falling out of bounds here, not trying to take this out was a great decision. Oregon beat Utah 2017. I didn't see any of that. Bo Nix was 25 for 37, 287 and a touchdown. That game came on way too late for me.
I watched a little bit. It wasn't exciting enough to keep my attention.
And then you get to a game like this. Georgia Tech against number 13 North Carolina. In the 12-team playoff scenario, that's a huge loss for North Carolina.
Oh, it's a monster. Absolutely.
They're right on the cusp. Obviously, this year, they're not. But, say this is a 12-team playoff. Like, you lose that game by 4 points, and you're sent to the back of the line.
Right, because if they win that game and lose to Clemson in the AACC championship, they maybe still have a shot to make a 12-team playoff. They might be able to
squeak in. Yeah.
I mean, you lose to a 3-7 team at home, you're toast.
And then, yeah, and then
Should we leave the number 20 team to Aaron and Chad, or do we get one word in on the number 20?
We can get a little bit of a word in on that. We won't totally steal their thunder on it, because I know like Aaron he's like, I gotta fill 20 minutes with AAC talk, and you always.
Oh, I could fill 20 minutes on that game alone.
Oh yeah, well we won't fill 20 minutes on it because then Aaron will be sad. But and again with like Arkansas, Ole Miss, Ole Miss 14 in the country, and then they get absolutely stomped on by Arkansas.
They ran for over 400 yards and scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to make it look like it was a close game.
Yeah.
How do you run for over two running backs ran for over 200 yards each?
It's just I don't know.
The lane train might not be heading to Auburn after all. Who knows?
Or maybe he is, and he's already just like packed it up, and
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Kansas State over West Virginia, Washington over Colorado. None of those appeared to be anything good. Then we get to the number 20 team in the country, the Orlando Tech Golden Knights, and
woof.
Just not good. Navy's fullback had 20 carries for 114 yards. He's got a fantastic last name in Fofana, and he is a bruiser of a running back. And I know that we've had obviously we played them, so they just didn't. They didn't.
I'm not gonna say it's to the extreme, but that game had a lot of Tuberville vibes.
I mean, I said it last week.
Like, I think Gus is a much better coach, and obviously he's younger, and it's not the same. But like that game plan and just the outcome, and with everything that was sitting there for them, like, whoa, like that if that happened to, like, I would be like, there's some stuff that I'm way more concerned about than just we lost this game.
I saw somebody on Twitter today say, I think we're now understanding why we beat Auburn in the bowl game. And it was a UCF fan. And I thought that was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody did a montage of, like, they did a Twitter search for
the
fire Gus
slanging or whatever. Yeah.
And it was everywhere. Like, there were people like, use me as a fire Gus, like this for fire Gus.
But yeah, I caught some. I don't know why, and it might not be fair, but I definitely that had some Tubbs vibes to it.
No, I mean it did, and they totally changed their. It felt like from watching the game, like they totally changed their game plan by taking out Plumlee going into the second half to try to throw the ball, and it worked for one drive, and
Navy being a pretty darn good run defense scared one of the best running teams in the country to not run the ball.
Oh,
I mean, they gave their two leading runners 17 total carries, and they both averaged over 6 yards a carry, and that's all the carries they got. But yeah, support the damn troops.
Support the damn troops. Go USA, go Navy. Thunderbucks also brought up a point we talked about, that they threw one incomplete pass, had 0 passing yards, and then were able to win the game.
I mean, they only ran the ball for like 200-something yards, so it wasn't like their
defense.
John Marshall? Is it John Marshall? He's a freaking dude, man. He's 4 sacks, like he's awesome.
And like the sacks were obvious. Like he was in the backfield, or making, like, a very key hit, stop, whatever you want to, stopping them from getting to the outside. Like, it was, that dude was everywhere for them. So kudos to Navy. Thank you to Navy for giving
always loved the midshipmen.
Always loved them. So that was good. Oklahoma State. Oklahoma, not their normal self. I mean, they're 6-5 this year.
They win Bedlam.
But they win Bedlam. So kudos. And then Louisville, they're 7-4 all of a sudden. And I don't know where that came from. And they beat NC State.
I think NC State's down to like their 3rd or 4th quarterback.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Whoever their quarterback was he Finley. 16 for 35, 201 yards and a touchdown. So
Natalie says Jerry Palm is projecting a Cotton Bowl matchup of Tennessee versus Cincinnati. I would not like that. I'd like both of my teams to have a chance to finish the season with a win.
oh no.
So not a fan.
I did see that because my brother-in-law was talking about like getting tickets to go to something like that, but
yeah. So, but I think we will wrap this one up with some. We have some Bearcats in the NFL.
A little week
to get in real quick.
Little week 10. Kobe Bryant 5 tackles. Brian Cook 4 tackles. Marquise Copeland 2 tackles. Nice. That's the first time he's made the weekly report here. Jerome Ford 3 returns for 95 yards. Derek Forrest 6 tackles, an interception, forced fumble recovery, and a pass defense. Travis Kelce with 6 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown. Jason Kelce again, no pressures, no sacks allowed. Chris Moore 3 receptions for 70 yards, and Myjai Sanders 5 tackles, a sack, a pass defense, and a forced fumble.
Myjai had a great game.
Yeah,
Derek Forrest had a great game.
Derek Forrest has had an outstanding season.
He's playing as one of the best safeties in the entire league.
I mean, unreal. It's nice to see Myjai starting to. He was injured a little bit, I think, at the beginning of the year, obviously. So and then I know Jerome Ford just came back off the. I don't know if they put him on the IR or if he was just injured for.
I think he was on IR return.
Okay, so this was his first game back. And I'll say it again, like having Bearcats be like impact players in the NFL makes my Sundays so much better. Because like I don't have to I'm not just waiting around for the Bengals game or watching the Bengals game and then just kind of flipping through some things. It is solely like, oh, the Eagles are let's see what's going on here. Obviously, Jason Kelce's he's a center, so like there's not a ton of action there, but to like see him play well, or like the Jets are playing, let's see what Sauce is doing. Like the Seahawks, like it's just fun to be able to flip through games and watch specific players and be like, all right, cool. Like he played well on that drive, switch over to another game. I enjoy it greatly. I feel like I have a little bit of investment across the league.
For sure. Stephen S., what is my Desmond Ridder take? You think once the Falcons are out of it, he sees some snaps? I think he should be playing now, especially the way that their last 2 weeks went. Like, you can still be technically in it. I'm not sure that they really are. And you can still be technically in it and see that Marcus Mariota is not the guy. And you're just afraid that if you put Dez in, then like, what's the difference? I don't know. I mean, yes, I think if they lose today to the Bears, I'm not sure what else you need to see. Marcus Mariota has been bad the last 2 weeks. I know Dez has quite the backing in the fan base and on the socials, but obviously that doesn't really mean much.
Right, we see that everywhere.
So, but yeah, I think he should be playing now, let alone if they fall out of the NFC South race. Bengals were on a bye. The Steelers' offense is terrible. They're here. I'm going to ask you a question you might know the answer to. The longest Steelers touchdown play this year is how many yards?
Oh God, I don't know. Dave, I think you're going to tell me it's probably going to be something under like 30 yards.
How about 8?
What?
Yes, their longest touchdown play this year is 8 yards.
Okay,
their offense is atrocious. As long as Joe Burrow doesn't have another out-of-body experience where he turns the ball over 5 times, the Bengals should win this game. They get DJ Reader back, which is a huge addition. It sounds like Jamar Chase is close. Obviously, will not play today. Off crutches. Hopeful for next week. But you got to take care of this game to make sure that you're still in the playoff hunt. The AFC is a dog. Teams are, you're probably not in position to win the division because you're 0-3. So you obviously can't lose this. You just can't lose this game. You got to win this game. It's to keep yourself on pace with the rest of the division or of the conference, I should say.
we talked about on PTP, like when the Bengals played the Steelers at the beginning of the year, like Steelers won, can't take that away from them. But literally everything that could go wrong went wrong.
I mean,
for the
we're gonna
Bengals.
if we don't make if they don't make the playoffs, they're gonna go kicking and screaming, thinking about that game in particular.
I think they'd be thinking about the beginning of the year and the way they handled preseason, but that's a conversation for another day that could go on for a very long time.
No doubt about it. But again, thank you. Big number today joining live. We always appreciate it. Appreciate the questions. Appreciate the comments. Helps drive topics. Reminds us of things that we may have missed. I totally missed that Lenny Taylor didn't even play because I'm not on Twitter during the game and watching the game. It's just something I didn't see and found that out after the fact. So, but Jeff, hope you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thanks again for joining. Please like, subscribe, leave comments, YouTube, Facebook, or not Facebook. Are we on Facebook? I don't even know if we're on Facebook. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places.
Retweet all of the links.
I hope to see everybody for a early kickoff post Thanksgiving where the Bearcats will be playing to go to another conference championship. So with that, I want to thank everybody again and have a wonderful Sunday, Cincinnati.